There may be occasions when you have content in Word format and you want to put it into Web Content Studio to check the theme or just to give it some final edits before it goes up on your site. For example, I've got an article here that was written by a ghostwriter that I use for a new website that I'm putting together, and it's in Microsoft Word format. And my writer has headlines that I would actually want as an H1, and then we've got these other headlines here, another headline down there. We've got these references, these superscript numbers, which I'd like to keep, which then refer to the references down at the end of the article. The thing is, I want to keep the general formatting, but I want to put it into Web Content Studio so I can do some editing, check the theme and that sort of thing. Well, there is a solution, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it all with Control A, Control C to copy, and then I'm going to go over to Web Content Studio. This particular article is called Omega-3 Fatty Acids, so I'm going to keep that as the title. So I'm going to go to my project and I'm going to add a new article which we'll call Omega-3 Fatty Acids. Okay, and then I'm going to open it. Now the problem is if I just paste that in, it will actually paste in and it will look reasonably okay, but going onto the source tab you can see that Microsoft has put in lots of CSS classes which bulk out the code and will actually affect the way it appears on my website. My website is set up to show specific fonts, and this code by Microsoft is going to overwrite it. So this isn't the best solution. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that and delete it and just save. So I'm basically left again with my blank article. Don't be alarmed by seeing this bit of code here. This is actually necessary to create a blank article in Web Content Studio. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to click on this button, Word Clean, and what that does is it opens in your default browser a website that can actually clean the Word code to a format that Web Content Studio likes. And all it is, you've got a table at the top, a box at the top where you can paste in your Word document, and then down below this is where you're going to get your code out. And you do have some settings at the bottom, but I'm going to leave everything as it is by default. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in my article. Now, just to help things, I'm actually going to do a little bit of editing in here because my ghostwriter likes to leave a lot of empty lines and spaces in between paragraphs. So I'm going to just clean it up a little bit. You could actually do this in Web Content Studio. You don't have to do it in this editor, but as I said, I like to do it in this editor. And we're almost there. Let's have a little bit more. Okay, and then we've got the references down here. A couple of extra lines in there as well. Another one there. Right, and just one more there. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make that into an H2. Again, you can do this inside Web Content Studio if you want to, if you prefer. But just to make it nice and easy, I'm going to do it in here. And I'll make this one an H1. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to tidy this up a little bit. I'm going to say for this format, let's make that an H2. We'll make this one an H2 as well. In fact, while we're making that an H2, let's also get rid of the underline. Okay, make that an H2. Keep scrolling down. Okay, references also has an underline, which I don't want. Get back up to the formats, inline, underline. Okay, so now I've cleaned up the article. These ones are underlined here because they're URLs. I'm not going to worry about that. Down here now we've got my cleaned up article, which I can then Control A, Control C to copy, go back to Web Content Studio. I'm going to select everything in the source tab editor and just delete it because we're not going to have a blank document anymore. We don't need that little bit of code. And I'm going to just paste that in. And I'm going to go back to the what you see is what you get editor. Because the source has changed, it's asking if I want to change, save changes, which I do. And then when we go back, you can see that the document now is nice clean source code, nice clean HTML. So that's how you get a Word document into Web Content Studio, keeping the most important HTML formatting in the Word document.